The portal giveth, and the portal taketh away.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Later in the show, Darrell Dapprich will join me. We'll talk about the huge week that Auburn has had filled with wins, and also we have a major rant by Darrell Dapprich, a Dap rant about that whole Aiden Holloway situation. You want to stick around for. Of course, the lead news yesterday, as far as Auburn football is concerned, is two young and talented defensive backs entered the transfer portal. Colton Hood and Tyler Scott. Obviously, anytime two talented players enter the portal, it stinks. It's not an ideal situation. But we did talk about this. It did speculate like it would make sense if it happened. Maybe not those two players specifically, but I mean, there's kind of a logjam of talent in this defensive back room. And there are other position groups where it's like, yes, there's seniors, then there's some juniors and sophomores, and then there's some young guys. With the defensive back room, there's some old guys, and there's a bunch of young guys, a bunch of true freshmen, a bunch of redshirt freshmen, and a handful of true sophomores that are kind of in the way, and they're all kind of battling for these spots. And so Colton Hood and Tyler Scott, I think they're both talented players. There's no question about it. There's no question that their upside is something that Auburn wanted within their program moving forward. Does this impact the 2024 season? I don't think so. I don't think it impacts the 2024 season. Does it impact the 2025 season? Yes. Yeah, I think it does. So when you look at guys, defensive backs, regardless of if they're going to be at corner or middle of the field defenders, whether they're a nickel or one of the safety spots, if you had to pick some guys to go, like, I guess this is it. Once again, not ideal, but the depth is still there this season. And you can worry about next season, next offseason. But as far as the defensive back room goes, like, it still appears that your starters, assuming Keontae Scott stays at outside corner, which is apparently where he wants to be. Once again, don't agree with it, but it's where he wants to be. And it seems like this coaching staff is giving him that honor. Keontae Scott and Kayan Lee as your outside corners. And then Antonio Kite is your third corner in all of this. And I think Jalen Crawford, as a true freshman, will be ready by the time the season starts to be that fourth corner. Or maybe we see J.C. Hart. We heard good things about him late in spring. We'll see if that continues to happen. And as far as your middle of the field defenders, Champ Anthony's not going away. Sylvester Smith, I think, is way more important of a name to kind of keep tabs on. Caleb Wooden, Laquan Robinson, and Terrence Love. And so these are all guys that are going to be on the roster, with the exception of Keontae Scott. Those are all guys that I mentioned that will be on the roster going into next season as well. And so there's still kind of some wiggle room there. The issue is like, okay, could Colton Hood or Tyler Scott have started next year with the departure of Keontae Scott? Possibly. And I think that's where you're really going to feel this. And obviously, if an injury or two happens, then you're going to be thinking, oh my goodness, I wish we still had these guys. But this coaching staff really believes in this freshman class. And I really believe in Jalen Crawford. And I think he is one of the two huge winners in this. And there are two. One is Jalen Crawford, because I think he has a chance to be a legitimate two-deep corner for the Tigers as a true freshman. Everybody's talking about how great Cam Coleman was. There's no question about it. But Jalen Crawford was the guy guarding him, and Cam Coleman had to make some pretty ridiculous catches. And I don't think the average defender that Crawford is going to be asked to cover this season is going to be able to do what Cam Coleman has done. I just think that's a pretty logical statement to make. We'll see. The other guy that I believe is a true winner in this is Antonio Kite. Antonio Kite, the transfer corner from Alabama. I'm just kind of reading between the lines here. But if you're Colton Hood and you're kind of expecting to be in the two deep as far as cornerbacks go, there clearly has got to be a guy that you think has positioned himself ahead of you. And I think Antonio Kite is that dude. Talked to some folks yesterday. Sounds like Antonio Kite has really positioned himself to be that number 2 corner, or excuse me, that number 3 corner. And look, this does get interesting if Keontae Scott does move back inside to nickel, which I think is what's best for the football team. We'll see if it actually happens. I cannot stress that enough. So then this gets more interesting if that happens. Then all of a sudden you look at Colton Hood and it's like, wow, he'd probably be playing if that was the case. So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see if all of that happens, but that kind of also leads me to think that, okay, this coaching staff really is gung-ho about putting Keontae Scott at corner moving forward, because if that were to happen, like, you don't let Colton Hood leave. Tyler Scott, I think there's a lot of talent and a lot of upside with Tyler Scott. I think Colton Hood's departure impacts the roster more than Tyler Scott's does. Just a gut feeling. That's just how I feel about it when you look at the rest of the room. But as far as 2024 goes, I think your starting corners, like I said, will be Kayan Lee and Keontae Scott. Then your middle of the field defenders can either be Jaron Thompson, Caleb Wooden, Champ Anthony, Terrence Love, Sylvester Smith. Sylvester Smith is a guy I'm very high on as well. And to me, you'd rather keep those guys, I think. And that's no disrespect to Colton Hood or Tyler Scott, but you'd rather keep those guys. And they probably felt the same way. And that's why they left. That's why they left, because those other guys in front of them were probably in a better situation for playing time and impacting the 2024 season. Now, the ramifications of this are interesting because we talk about, okay, they need a defensive lineman. Hugh Freeze talked about need at wide receiver. Do you need guys at defensive back now? And the answer to that is probably yes. Like, I don't think you turn away a corner anymore. I think if a corner is interested in you, I think you have to listen. But still, it's like, what kind of sales pitch do you have to a corner where it's like, okay, you got to be better than one of these guys, or you're probably going to be the third or fourth corner on this roster? Because if there's a corner that's better than any of these other guys, Keontae Scott, Kayan Lee, or Antonio Kite, they're a pretty good corner. They're a pretty good corner. And so what happens after that, and how much eligibility do they have left? If you're going to go that route and kind of go get an instant starter, which that former 5-star corner from Texas entered the portal yesterday. I don't know if Auburn's tied to him or not. My guess is he's not, but I don't know. But getting a guy like that can come in and make a splash, that'd be fun. That'd be fun to see. But all in all, not too concerned about losing Colton Hood and Tyler Scott. We speculated on this. It is weird how close they were in timing when they made this announcement. It's like, let's just jump in together, bud. Let's just jump in together. I don't know. But all in all, the winners of this are Antonio Kite and Jalen Crawford, in my humble opinion. Coming up, joined by Montgomery radio legend Darrell Dapprich as we dap it up on a Wednesday. What a huge weekend it was. What a huge week it was for the Auburn Tigers and this defensive line room. That's coming up right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. Right now, it's the NBA playoffs are picking up. NHL postseason is here. Has that started yet, Darrell?
Yes.
Yep. You're the
Not
hockey
my
guy.
team, unfortunately, but yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So sorry.
Thanks
and obviously, the MLB is picking up as well. FanDuel is your place to bet on every single game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. What a week it's been for Auburn's defensive line. Adding Philip Bleedy, adding Isaiah Rakes, and adding Keyron Crawford. Darrell, I mean, just looking at what they've done to totally revamp, whether they all start, whether they're all rotational pieces, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. What Auburn has done on the defensive line at that position this week, Darrell, adds how many potential wins to Auburn's final win total in 2024?
I say at least one. I still want to see an explosive playmaker on the other side of the ball at the receiver position.
Yeah.
But I say at least one because it was the position of need the most coming out of spring. And not only did they address it, they addressed it fantastically. I mean, they just didn't get bodies. They got impact guys. So let's do a little deep dive. And this is where I've been looking forward to kind of sharing some things. So first of all, with Bleedy, classic 3 technique, exactly what you needed at Auburn. Put him next to Jason Jones, let him eat. Run stopper, but reading some of his, PFF stuff and his scouting, he pushes the line of scrimmage backward. He's a good pass rusher from that position. He absolutely gets movement from there. Next, Isaiah Rakes. Here's where there was a conflict that I had to do a little research, and I want to thank Cole Pinkston, who did such a good job of breaking this down, for sharing some light on this. When I was researching the position that Rakes plays, Trojan Wire from USC, when he was coming from A&M, said he's a versatile defensive tackle that split his snaps between nose and 3 technique.
Right.
Well, that flew in the face of everything we heard. We heard he is a nose, Isaiah Rakes, period. That's where he plays. Well, I kept doing some research and digging, and I'm saying, he's played a lot of snaps. Well, at Texas A&M, they played some 3-man front and some 4-man front. Mm-hmm. And when they were in the 4-man front, he slid over and played 3 technique. When they were in the 3-man front, he played nose. Very simple. If Auburn does that, which I don't know if they will or not, maybe they will because it was Durkin that did that.
If it's a coordinator, right?
Yeah. So if they do that, he's versatile enough where he split snaps between the 2 positions. You got to love that. And then our man Crawford, who we did almost a whole show on, a true, bona fide edge guy that's a tremendous pass rusher. Absolutely. And what I like, too, reading his scouting report, he also sets the edge well. Mm-hmm. So not only does he rush well off the edge, he sets the edge from a running game standpoint. You got exactly what you needed if you're Auburn in 3 positions. And one of those is a hybrid that's versatile with Jason Jones coming back and Keys and Falk and McLeod. It's just and Trill Carter it went from a position of a question mark to, in my opinion, position of strength.
Yeah, I'm not quite ready to say it's a position of strength, but you're totally right. And just to kind of come behind you on the Isaiah Rakes, he lined up at the 3 technique on 112 snaps last year, and he lined up at nose for 98 snaps.
Wow, that's pretty balanced. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was at USC, right?
That was at A&M. He never actually played at USC.
That's right. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty important. That is definitely a split type scenario. So
yeah, which makes me think, okay, if they brought him in, and there's a chance, Darrell, they said, hey, you're good, we need you. This is, we'll figure out exactly what the role is once you get here. Like that's a possibility. This also could be a thing where, is he a 3 technique? Could Bleedy play backup in to Keldrick Falk if they needed to? I mean, I think you've got guys that can play multiple spots, and that's what they needed. That's what they needed. And we saw them try to do this last year, but he got hurt with Messiah Nasili Kite, where he played a lot of 3 tech, and then he also played some end. So, I mean, we could see that with a handful of these guys. So, to me, it makes a ton of sense. It makes a ton of sense, this edition. And also, I haven't really seen this angle discussed anywhere, but everybody wants to talk about like how much of a culture issue DJ Durkin is. And yeah, we've got 2 players at Auburn that have played for him elsewhere that love him. And it's like, if it was really that big of a culture issue, people wouldn't be excited and going out of their way to play for him again.
Especially, well, I think that narrative got put to bed with Austin Keys immediately when he was hired.
Yeah, of course.
He was already here, and he came out and just lauded him and really praised him. So, and then what this also does, I had somebody private message me yesterday and say, okay, what does this do for the young guys, the young core that Auburn was saying they were so heavily counting on, the TJ Lindsey's, the Blocktons? Well, what it does, it doesn't mean they're not going to play. it just allows them to come along at a pace that's more conducive and better for Auburn to not have to rush them into the SEC. They can come along and develop at a pace that you don't have to count on them or worry that you have to play freshmen. Still get snaps, still get looks, but do it at a pace that's more comfortable for both parties.
Yeah, so let me ask you this. How many guys do you feel good to play? Okay, you can play/start, play at least 15 to 20 snaps in an SEC game. Here are the seniors. Gage Keys, Trill Carter, Philip Bleedy, Isaiah Rakes, Jason Jones. All of them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
About all of them.
Yeah, I thought it was a trick question for a second.
Nope.
Every single one of them, I would not have a problem with starting and playing significant snaps.
Yep, so that's 5. Bobby, Jamison, Travis.
I wouldn't be uncomfortable. I would be less comfortable than the ones you just mentioned.
Yeah, but 10 to 15 snaps, it's like, yeah,
Correct.
Okay, that seems about right. Then let's get to the younger guys. Darren Reed, Malik Blockton, TJ Lindsey.
10 snaps, 10 to 15 snaps. I'd be fine with that.
You're okay with all them getting 10 snaps? Yeah, I'm there with you. And I'm not saying all this is going to happen, but just hypothetical. I mean, because we're just in a different spot than we were a few days ago. Jalen McLeod, obviously. All right, Zacchaeus Walker, Kieron Crawford.
Well, Crawford's going to play a ton of snaps. I mean, I think that could be one of those guys that almost looks like a co-starter with the amount of snaps that he plays, right? I mean, when it's all added up at the end of the year, he may have a snap count of somebody that's a starter. Walker, man, I love him, and every time I think the light's fixing to go on and he's going to make a significant impact, if it's not now,
we just hear nothing. Yeah. We just hear nothing. Then Keldrick Falk, obviously we feel good about him. And then Amaris Williams, Jamonta Waller, Joe Phillips.
Kind of like the block did. I could see 10 snaps, 5 to 10 snaps. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to get that every game, but there will be games and situations and game plans, or somebody gets shaken up in the second quarter and they need to play more, where I do think that'll happen. But all of a sudden, it's like, wow. I mean, this is a full room where you feel good about where they're at. So just absolutely transform. It's amazing what these 3 guys did to that whole room. It just changed the whole mindset of it. So, which is huge. Okay, Auburn basketball, the Iron Bowl of basketball, it is just getting hotter and hotter. Whew. We have thoughts. That's coming up right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Monopoly Go. I'm competitive. I've been told I'm competitive. I lean into it. I deal with it. I know. But my competitive side, it's a huge fan of Monopoly Go right now. It's been downloaded over 150 million times, so I'm sure you've heard of it. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you can play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part is messing with your friends. You can charge them rent on iconic properties, just like the classic Monopoly. And of course, the leaderboards, that's where the competitive side comes out. You get to show them who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people from all over the world with time tournaments and huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go, now free in your phone's app store. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at Gametime. Gametime is the best place to buy tickets, whether it's for sports, the theater, music, doesn't matter what it is. Gametime is now an authorized ticket marketplace of MLB, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. And the prices on the Gametime app, they actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. So if you want to drive over to a Braves game, or look, a lot of you guys tune in from Atlanta. And if he's like, man, I want to go to the game tonight, let's do it. Let's just go. Gametime's the place to do it. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Darrell, there's drama. There's drama in the transfer portal. Aiden Holloway leaves, and the smoke happened almost instantly once he hit the portal that Bama was interested. Obviously, he is committed to Bama. That happened, I guess, over the weekend. And the national media, I don't think Auburn fans are that worried about it, but the national media is eating it up. They just can't get enough of it. And there's people out there blatantly saying, like, I don't know the full story, but this stinks for Auburn. And it's like, no, that's not how this works.
So, first of all, I want to preface this by saying the fact that Aiden Holloway jumped in the portal was not a surprise to anybody that was an Auburn fan that was paying attention, that actually followed the story and did a little research, because we had heard that he did not have any contact with the coaches from the time they got back from Spokane after the tournament. So we knew it was coming. The fact that he jumped in the portal doesn't bother me. Good luck, young man. Do what you got to do. Auburn was recruiting over the top of you with Pegues anyway. That's just a fact. And they offered Holloway the opportunity to come back and compete for the number one job. He didn't want to do that. Okay. The fact that he went to Alabama didn't even get me up in arms like it did a lot of other people. Because here's the deal. If that's where you feel like it's your best fit, how can on one hand Auburn fans be upset with Holloway but embrace Antonio Kite? It goes both ways. I didn't care. If he wants to go somewhere with his limited defensive abilities and shoot it 25 times a game, go. Okay. The problem I had, and when I started to change the narrative on this, was when he was way out the door, he took a shot at Bruce Pearl publicly, talking to the Alabama guy about how he was sold a bill of goods. Bruce Pearl got very angry at a press conference telling Auburn fans to lay off Aiden Holloway, if you remember that. Leave the kid alone. He's doing the best he can. Like a son, he went at people, stuck up for him. We have memory problems and amnesia sometimes in sports, and especially kids. Secondly, he kept running him out there. Bruce Pearl was hoping he would shoot his way out of it. When everybody else was screaming, sit the kid down, Pearl was running him out there. So don't take a shot at Bruce Pearl on the way out the door. And then Seth Davis. When I thought that the circus and like people used to get when I was a kid, I thought it was a thing of the past. And then you get clowns like Goodman and Seth Davis that don't know anything about Auburn basketball, but sit from afar, from a perch, and take shots and say, I don't know the details. Okay, then that should have been the end of your tweet, idiot. Shut up. You don't know the details. To say that it was a knock and it was devastating for Auburn, or because it was a bad look because he went to Alabama, and then to come back on top of that and say, I don't know the details, but it must be an NIL issue that Alabama has. Okay, really? Ask Broom, Cardwell, and Pegues if there's an NIL issue. Do research. Pick up the phone and call somebody and understand that probably the preseason SEC Player of the Year just chose to come back to Auburn. You think that was cheap? No. You had to raise some NIL money for that. But he's an idiot and doesn't understand that and won't, because you got to get off the couch to actually do that. And he throws shots from afar. That's what bothers me. Just ask somebody. Ask the coaching staff. Ask the beat writers. Ask Hoke. Ask anybody that's involved with the program, what's the Aiden Holloway situation? And they would have been truthful and told him and said, there's plenty of NIL money because Cardwell, Broom came back. Pegues, we went and got him. There's a backup point guard that's yet to be got. There's a power forward that's yet to be got out of the roster. Seems like there's money, NIL money, Zach, where Auburn deems it crucial and important, period.
Sweet. That's exactly what I wanted you to do. Yeah,
Seth Davis.
Do you feel better now?
Yeah, I just and some people good for Hoke and some others that I on X. I mean, that's the problem. They went right back at him and said, "You don't know the whole story. Here's what we can tell you." Don't say I don't know all the details and then speculate. God, that's so poor. That's horrible. That is so. You don't know the details because you're lazy and didn't ask. Yeah. It's not hard.
It also never seems like it goes the other way. It's like
that's what bothers me. That's the thing too. I know that Auburn fans get tired of getting the moniker put on them of "woe is me" and being defensive, but it's for reasons like this. It's for reasons like this that happens, is because shots are taken by the Goodmans, and the Seth Davis and these guys, and yet there's never any kind of reversal on that. It's just. It's ridiculous. Thank goodness for a guy like John Rothstein, who's pretty legitimate, does his work, knows ball, and understands things, and just doesn't throw darts at a dartboard blindfolded.
Yep. We sleep in May. Absolutely. Darrell, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Follow me on X, DAP6410, and then with you on Wednesday and Fridays, and a little of my written work on Auburn Daily. When this roster gets set, another basketball article will come out.
Yeah, be sure to like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you tomorrow. This has been Locked On Auburn.